The first two domains looked at, we need to address. We need to address the cognitive domain. We need to address the affective domain. Very, very important. That's a big one. But this last one is really, really interesting. Judicial domain. It's what we call the legislative educator. Judicial education. Demand reduction supporting legislation is the last key piece to facilitating cultural shift. Legal system is not about punitive responses. Punishment, you're a bad person, I'm going to make you pay. That's not what this is about. That doesn't change behaviour. It's about incentivised facilitation of intentional and accountable change. It's an educative process, not a punitive one. Without this motivation, many drug users remain careless about their impact on themselves and those around them. There are no consequences, natural or otherwise. My behaviour is unchecked, individually and community-wise. And there is no accountable mechanism that says, no, you're going to stop now and you're going to make some changes and we're going to help you do that. I don't want to do that, yeah, but we're going to help you do that because you're not wanting to do that is making you dysfunctional and is damaging everyone else around you. We need to change that. We want to do that in a humane, compassionate, but we're going to do it in an accountable and a facilitated way. Educate and legislate. Education and supportive legislation together do far more to reduce demand for drug use than education alone. And those out there who say, oh, you don't need legislation, you just need education, are selling you something. You need both to make it work in the best way. John Stuart Mill was a sociologist in the 19th century and also a key advocate for libertarian values. In other words, we get to do what we want, how we want, without minimal cultural and government restraints. Now, he's quoted often by pro-drug activists as the benchmark for their arguments for their rights to take drugs. But what they don't like to tell you is that John Stuart Mill had a caveat for all that he's banging on about, our rights to live the way we want and unfettered by government. He had a caveat that they like to ignore. He said this: no person is an entirely isolated being. It is impossible, get that, it's impossible for a person to do anything seriously or permanently hurtful to him or herself without mischief reaching at least to his near connections and often far beyond. And if this individual deteriorates his or her bodily or mental faculties, drug use will do that quicker than anything else, he not only brings evil upon all who depended upon him for any portion of their happiness, but disqualifies himself from rendering the services which he owes. Now, that's a term he's using, owes, to his fellow creatures, his community members, his neighbours and families. Perhaps becomes a burden on their affection or benevolence. And if such conduct were very frequent, hardly any offence that is committed would detract more from the general sum of good. So even he realises that there are certain conducts and behaviours that we owe to our neighbours and to our family to do well. And substance abuse and alcohol misuse will quickly diminish your capacity and faculty to be able to do that. And more than that, it'll create discord and dysfunction in your family and your community. Civil societies are about helping us all function well together, not just trying to stand up for every single individual right that might exist because someone's felt need demands it. We need to be looking out for what is best practice for all. Health, productivity, family, community. These are things we need to look at. Using the law smart is a really key issue here. That's why legislative or judicial domain education is very powerful. Now, for example, a practical way this has been done globally and working remarkably well is drug treatment courts. So these are a key to change. Now, I had the privilege of going to local drug courts in where our central office is in Melbourne, in Dandenong, and I've actually seen firsthand and spoken with the presiding judge there, Tony Parsons, great guy, compassionate guy, and really doing great work in helping drug use offenders actually not just stay out of jail, but more importantly transition out of drug use. Sure, not 100% success rate, but making some great steps forward. But I've also spent time with one of the architects of drug courts in the US, and this is some of the data that's coming out of there, which is quite fascinating. Drug court clients remain in treatment twice as long as non-drug court clients. Double the chance of completing treatment. Do less crime, arrested less, and reduce drug use. Reduce victimisation, not just of themselves, but their family and their communities. Save families. Children are up to 40% more likely to be reunified with families and spend significantly less time in foster care when their parents go through drug courts. Incarceration costs in the US are around 18 grand a year. It's about a year or so old, this stat, but around 18 grand a year. Drug treatment court costs per annum for the same offender, 4 grand a year. So economically, we're making huge savings there. To save $27 in socio-economic costs for every dollar invested. So every dollar invested in judicial domain education through drug courts saves $27 in socio-economic benefits. I noticed recent in the news here, Andrew Chan, who's a convicted drug smuggler of heroin, famously known as the Bali Nine, and many others got 20 years in jail or various sentences. But him and his friend, his key ringleaders, were sentenced to death. Andrew had been involved in drugs for a long time before he got caught smuggling into Bali. In fact, he got done for drug possession, drug sales. He started in high school. Nothing slowed him down. Nothing changed him. Our light responses, our lack of drug court intervention for him, rehab, detox, all that stuff didn't affect him. He was going to keep using and dealing drugs because it was a bit of a joke. Until he lands in Bali. The laws are quite clear. If you smuggle drugs into a lot of these Southeast Asian countries, you will go to jail for a long time or die. That's the law. I mean, and everybody knows this. So you do this at your own risk. Even that clearly stated, Andrew thought, it's a manageable risk. It's amazing what that whole reward risk thing, the coding does. There's not much risk. What's going to happen? I get caught? Yeah, the Australian embassy will let me out, or, I'll get let off, or, because that's what's happened in my own country. But in Bali, that's not what happened. Now, as a result, Andrew's not only incarcerated, he is sentenced to death. We've co-produced a film about his life we recently released called Dear Me. But in that, he talks about what happened to him as a result of that. This incarceration, no turning back, no second chance, changed him. Access to drugs was gone, so he couldn't have a quick fix for the vicissitudes that he's now experiencing. He had to deal with his reality. He was going to be held accountable in the most horrendous way. He's going to lose his life. So all of a sudden he didn't go, I better be a good boy so they may not kill me. They may not kill me. He says, my life is a disaster. The accountability process stopped him and he recalibrated. As a result, he made some remarkable changes, which you can find out for yourself and what he's done. But he is now not only a model prisoner, but he's helping others get off drugs, stay off drugs, reinvent themselves in life, give them meaning, purpose, direction, support, mentorship, all the things that he needed and all the things he should have had. He's now dealing out and doling out to others and making a remarkable difference. And he's not doing that to be exonerated from his crimes. He knows he's going to die. He says, I'm going to die. They could take me at any time of the night. Could be tomorrow, could be the next day. I don't know. And they can shoot me. I'm not looking forward to that, but that's my reality. And it's amazing that accountability, it's as severe and austere as it is, that accountability was a key element to change for him. And I think judicial domain education, affective domain education, and cognitive domain education working together can help us shift the culture away from this permissiveness, this give up, this its inevitability of drug use culture, and which the pro-drug lobby wants you to think so they can sell and promote their products. We can move it away from that to a prevention model that sees less and less and less young people take up substances and more people recover from them. It is simple. It's just not easy. But like Lou Gehrig's disease, we want to have a community free from drug use. And we can do that if we work together. Government, community, family, education, media. We work together, we can make a difference. And I want to say thank you very much for your time.